everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. This is Starting Out Bright, and I'm Noreen Savage. In case we have not met before, I'd just like to introduce myself for just a second. I got involved with Bright Line Eating, and first of all, I am nobody official with Bright Line Eating, but the program has done a lot for me. I got involved with Bright Line Eating a little over 2 years ago. In May of 2019, my friend Lori posted on Facebook that she had lost 57 pounds in 1 year using Bright Line Eating, and if anybody was interested, to contact her. So I quickly went to my messenger and asked Lori to tell me all about BLE. And she proceeded to tell me that there are 4 bright lines that you don't cross. It's a book, Bright Line Eating, by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson. And the 4 bright lines are no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, and weighed and measured portions. And when I heard that, I thought, there is absolutely no way I could do that. But I was sitting at 270 pounds, 5'2", and a lot of pain at that time in my life. Foot pain, horrendous knee pain, back pain. There were a number of times I went to bed and wondered seriously if I would wake up in the morning. And my friend Lori told me some good advice. She told me, number 1, get the book, and secondly, get into the Bright Line community, which at that time I got into We Eat Bright with Lines, which is a private group. It still is there, a large group. And now there are many groups. There are well over 50 groups, and the Bright Line Eating official is their official group, and that's a public group. We have Starting Out Bright now. It's a private group. So there are many places for people to join to get some community support. But anyway, I got into the group and I just kept seeing so many wonderful people sharing this hope by posting then and now photos and just being inspirational. And even if when times were rough, to get back up and do it again. And there was just such a great camaraderie. I promised myself that if I lasted 1 year with Bright Line Eating, that I would do the same as my friend Lori. I would post in my private Facebook page and I would help anybody I could. Well, I got going for real in July, and the following July, here we are in COVID, and I'm a Christian. God told me, Noreen, you can do more than that. You can do more than just post. And the idea came to me of having Zooms where people could meet each other, and especially those who are feeling so hopeless could meet successful people doing the program. And so that's how the Zooms were born. And I have just been humbled by the amazing guests that we have who have stepped up to tell their stories. Every single story is worthy of telling. And there is no perfection in anybody's story because we are not perfect people. There's not one perfect program. But tonight it's going to be close to that, hearing Jennie's story, because she's phenomenal. And I can't wait to have you meet her. So without further ado, hi, Jennie.
Hello, Noreen. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. And I am so happy we had a chance to chat the other day, too. I always like to get the inside scoop. And you have quite the story to tell. I shared a little bit of mine, and I always like to start out about where were you, how were you before you got into Bright Line Eating? And you can go back as far as you want, but if you can bring us up to speed, what even brought you into Bright Line Eating? Most people don't say, hey, I think I want to drop sugar and flour from my life. So what was it for you?
Don't think so. Well, I'll go back to just let you know that I was thin growing up and I could eat what I wanted to and kept the weight off. And at my wedding, I was 135. I'm 5'7". And then my husband, who is not addicted to flour and sugar at all. And we might talk about the susceptibility scale, but he's a 1 and I'm a 10. I started to eat like him and gained 5 pounds really quickly, and then had 4 kids. Might have lost some of that, most of the weight for the first couple, and then just started inching up. And while I was inching up, I was trying 11 different things to try to lose the weight, keep it off. And I was successful at times. Some of the programs I did, 4 times.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
and I was doing a program, let me see, in 2017 called Medifast. Now it's called Optavia. And at the time I thought, this is it. I don't need to look forward, but then that started not working, and I started overeating on some of their food products, that probably had flour and sugar in them. Because I found out, okay, let me stop there. My friend Judy, who I've known since 5th grade, she lost, I think, around 65 pounds. Don't quote me. And I never saw her looking just as happy. She was always a happy lady, but just even happier and thinner. And so then I said, what are you doing? And so she told me about bright line eating. And then I did the 14-day challenge, and I binged on Fiber One because that is an allowed cereal. But then I discovered, I realized, cereal is one of those foods that I can binge on, I can overeat on. And so then I learned that lesson, and I've learned a lot of lessons in the last 4 years on BLE. And so then after 7 days, I did the boot camp, and that started in April, at the end of April 2017. I lost 60 pounds, and I was feeling very good. And then life got lifey. I got the flu, and then I started making exceptions to the program, still staying off flour and sugar. And then my mom got sick and she passed away, still maintaining no flour, sugar. But then in March, so about 11 months later, I had flour and sugar after my husband's birthday. And then began the struggles.
Before we go into that,
yeah.
Jennie, I want to,
Sure.
a couple of things that I know that we talked about a little bit before, that when you got the flu, you changed the program up a little bit. Can you talk about that? Because I have heard this several times about going into that, but I'd like to get your take on it.
Yeah. When you're sick with bright line eating, you're allowed to have 3 breakfasts a day. The idea being that it might be easier on your stomach. They're, like the grains, the fruits, right, proteins, and not heavy on the vegetables. And so then I started having breakfast 3 times a day for a few days. And then I got better, but then I might get busy and not have my food prepped. And I'm like, I'm not going to make dinner for dinner. I'm just going to have breakfast again. And so I started making exceptions. And I think that was a learning experience again, that I can't make exceptions.
Had you gotten off the Fiber One by this point?
Oh, I got off the Fiber One the first 7 days. Like, when I was doing that I realized no. And I have never had any cold cereals on BLE. There are some that are approved, but I just realized then that just triggers me in my brain. So I refrain from that. Okay.
So here you are, your friend Judy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your friend Judy introduces you. You go right into the 14-day challenge. You're halfway through the 14-day challenge and you go into boot camp. By then, you've already learned the lesson of Fiber One within a week. Mm-hmm. That's great to already pick that out, but you must have had some like headlights come on, like, whoa, this might be just boom, boom, boom. This might not be that way. at that
Yeah.
point, you're already seeing like, okay, I have to be a little cautious here.
You know, you would think that I would have thought that at the time, but I think that it took me 4 years to get all those lessons learned, and I'm always going to continue to be learning those lessons. I was very excited about the program. It was new. I had the adrenaline going, you know, and I think that I was kind of going on adrenaline.
Well, that and
And yeah,
fruit,
what's
like
that?
that and fruit, because even when we talked about earlier, all these diets we've been on, and we share something in common too about both having had gestational diabetes when we
Mhm.
were pregnant.
Yeah,
I had it for 2 of the 5 of my children, and I don't know how many times you
I
had
had
it.
it with my fourth, was my last. Yeah, I had it once.
So when I got into Bright Line Eating, all this fruit all the time was just
Mhm.
amazing, wasn't it? Just crazy
It's
that.
so exciting because one of the programs I went on was just vegetables, maybe some healthy fat and protein. And it wasn't the quantities that we get on Bright Line Eating. I always thought to myself, going through all this, the years that I did when I was doing different programs, that I had to go hungry in order to lose weight. And Bright Line Eating has shown me that that's not the case, that food is fuel for our body. We need the right amount of fuel. And so the reason why we weigh our food on Bright Line Eating isn't so that we're reducing, so that we're not, you know, we're getting hungry, it's so that we get enough food.
Yeah, and I think too, the other day when you were mentioning the diabetes at that point too, really talked to you about food being medicine. And
That's
it's
right.
and it's
You
really
know,
true.
right. I've had quite a few health issues going on. You know, I've had polycystic ovarian syndrome. God blessed me with 4 kids. I'm really grateful for that. Not everyone with PCOS has that. But insulin resistance goes hand in hand with PCOS. And the last time I went to the doctor, she's like, your insulin resistance is gone. She says, you have
Wow.
no risk of diabetes anymore as long as you keep doing what you're doing. So, I mean, it's just
Wow.
awesome. Yeah.
So I had kind of jumped in to just get some of that in because that just was remarkable to me that you were already aware of that from the time that you were pregnant with the kids and the babies. And
Mhm.
I didn't know about the ovarian cysts, the, how do you call it? The post
Polycystic ovarian
polycystic.
syndrome.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's even more. So really being aware. But so here you've already gotten into Bright Line Eating. You've lost weight.
60 pounds by maybe November-ish, from end of April to, you know, around the end of November, probably.
And now
So I thought it was fairly quickly.
it was. And
Yeah.
so then you had some hard times, the flu, but
Mhm.
mostly your mom.
Yeah.
So then what
Um,
happened?
yeah. I think because I let those exceptions in, you know, that opened the doorway for more exceptions. You know, my mind's like, you made an exception here. Maybe can I make an exception there? And I also learned, another lesson I learned is that support is so key for me in my journey. And the Bright Line Eating community is always here to offer support daily. And for a person like me who identifies as being addicted to food, especially flour and sugar, um, I need that support. And I don't know how many of you out there can relate to the lack of integrity with yourself. You
Oh,
know, I would say to myself, "Oh, I'm only going to have one cookie," you know, and then 12 cookies go down, you know, and then maybe a bowl of sugar, cereal, and then, you know, 4 toast. That was me. Like I was binging. Um, and so I realized that I didn't have integrity with myself, and that's something I really, really wanted because I want to be a person of honesty and integrity. Um, in
What
my
did
life.
you set up in place to do that? Did you have an accountability partner then, or what did you
So
do?
then it was January of 2019. My Helix House boot camp. We'd still be on Facebook together, but then I heard about this Marco Polo app, and
Hmm.
I'm like, hey, why don't I get on this Marco Polo app? And so one of my Helix House members became the administrator for that group, and that's where daily accountability and support really happened for me.
And how
Very
does that
important.
work when this was just a group, was it a mastermind group, or was it just
So
anybody could join, or how?
anybody from my Helix House camp could join.
Okay.
And still to this day, about 8 of us are very active and posting every day, checking in, telling each other how our day is going, if we're bright or not. And we also talk about the things that we would have eaten over. We talk about life.
Mm.
And I think that really helps so that we don't eat over it. We're expressing and externalizing those thoughts and those feelings. We're letting ourselves feel the feelings, not keeping them in, not isolating. So important not to isolate, because I think that's part and parcel of being addicted, is that you do isolate. That's kind of where the addiction comes in. I'm sure some of you can relate to this, and it's a very, very hard place to be, because in the time from March of 2018 until May 8th, 2020, that's an important date, I gained back 68 pounds.
Oof.
And so you can imagine I was in just a very low place. I was binging almost daily. And I think that for me, food addiction is a progressive disease. And I didn't used to binge, I would overeat, but it got to that point. So in April of 2019, I asked Christine, one of my Marco Polo Helix House group members, if she would be my sponsor. This woman is so wise, so loving, just accepts me right where I'm at on the journey. She knew that I really wanted to be free from food addiction. And so she became my sponsor. And every single day I would call her up first thing in the morning, and I would send her a text with my food for the day. And I'd say, I commit to eat only this. And for 4 months, I was completely bright, and I was losing weight again, and life was good. And then at the end of a vacation in San Diego with my family, I ate NMF.
Hmm.
And then I I succumbed to my addiction again.
Like straight
And
on, it was not a gradual thing. You just
no,
totally
it's not gradual.
switched the flip.
And then I
Flip the switch.
struggled. It's just a horrible place to be. Um, and so I can so relate to people that just want freedom, because I tasted the freedom at the beginning of BLE, right? I knew that these were the tools that I could have for freedom. But I think for me, it was a spiritual journey. I realized that God was like, you need to learn some more things. And one thing I learned was that I need support. Another thing I learned is that I'm in recovery. I'm a food addict. I'm in recovery, and this is going to be daily, every single day. And in Bright Line Eating, we like to say we're on the path, right? When we're eating
Mhm.
bright,
Right.
and we're only 2 feet away from the ditch. And if we're in the ditch, though, we're only 2 feet away from the road. So I kept showing up, and I would pull myself out of bed in the morning. I would call her and I'd be like, I commit to being bright today. And I really believed it, but I knew it was going to be a struggle. And I would have my bright breakfast and my bright lunch. And then sometime in the afternoon, I would binge. And, it just feels horrible because I didn't have that integrity.
Mm. So what through this partnership with Christine is what got you back to being bright. I mean, you did it for 4 months,
Yeah.
Then you went back in the ditch.
Yeah.
And did you isolate for a while, or did you still stay with the Marco Polo and you just kept going with that? So
Yeah.
you were showing up.
And that's the one thing I'd like to encourage everybody who does BLE is half the battle is showing up every day and persevering. Because I really feel for me, um, it was knowing that God really did want freedom for me and believing that. And so in April, I reached out to another bright lifer. His name is Father Stefan, and he is a priest in Canada. And I said, you understand BLE and you understand my faith. Will you please be my spiritual director?
Hmm.
And I wasn't bright at the time, but this is where sometimes Susan will say, sometimes it's just grace. It's just the light, the switch flips and you get it. And then I'm just so grateful to God that I got it, because, and I hope that the fact that I was showing up every day led to that grace, because I think I was learning those lessons on the way. I was learning that it's important to have support. I was learning that it's important to have daily habits, writing your food down, committing it, and only that. And so Father Stefan met with me for, 4 or 5 months, once a month. And then on May 8th, 2020, that switch flipped and I've been bright. And I'm down 75.8 pounds. So can we say 76
Yes.
as of today?
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about what you ended up losing. So
Yeah.
are you in maintenance now?
Uh, I'm hoping to lose some more weight, maybe about 10 pounds is kind of what I'm thinking. But life has just been lifey in my family. There's been a lot of kind of medical issues and things like that that I've had to attend to. And so I told my sponsor, at first I was going to just go, okay, let me back up a little bit. When I got my sponsor, she's like, you know what? Let's add food to your program. There's a weight loss food plan, and it works for many people, and it worked for me the first time around. I was satisfied on the weight loss program, but because binging entered into my life, one thing is triggering me is to be hungry.
Okay.
It would trigger a binge. So she's like, right now, let's just get your lines intact. Let's not worry about the weight loss. Let's get your lines solid. And so I added some food and then I kept losing weight. And I was like losing maybe 1.5 pounds a week. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to keep this food in there. And eventually I did decrease a little bit, but I always had some. And then this April, I was maintaining. My father-in-law passed away. I started this medication that did not agree with me, so I wasn't feeling good. And my body was holding on to, the weight. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go down to weight loss so I can get the last 15 pounds off. And so I went down to weight loss. And then there was, like I said, medical issues with my kids. And I said to my sponsor, you know what? Now is the time for me to get the nutrition that I need and not be hungry at all, because I need to be there for my family. And if I lose weight, great. If I don't, I'm at a pretty good weight right now. I can be happy. So I did add some weight, or I added a half a protein to the weight loss plan at breakfast, and I've added a half of a grain at lunch, and I'm still losing. I am so grateful.
Wow.
It might not be that way for everybody, but I'm very grateful. So I highly recommend and tell people that, with support, I didn't make these choices to add food on my own because, like I said, I wanted that integrity with myself. And so I would reach out for support to kind of get the thumbs up, yes, let's add food. And then if I wanted to decrease food, I would tell my sponsor and go over it with her.
So I want to highlight that word sponsor, because now I'm just curious why you use that word. It's not in a 12-step. Is it just when you say sponsor, it's just you're not being accountable to each other. She's listening to your commitments and giving you feedback, not back and forth like an accountability group or a partner
Right,
would
right.
be.
Or a buddy. Buddies usually commit to each other. And
Okay.
um, and Susan Pierce Thompson does talk. She originally came from the 12-step background, so she
Mhm.
was used to sponsors. Um, for me, I needed a sponsor who was going to be there with me through thick and thin, and believe in me. And she just had so much wisdom, and so I gave her some authority, to help me make those decisions instead of making them for myself.
So when she was saying, Jennie, I think you should add a half a grain, or you should add an extra half a protein, you were
Yeah,
taking that as more than just like, maybe so, maybe not. She's given it some thought.
right.
She's giving you this with everything of goodness inside to help your program and really thinking it through with you. That was really great. So
And
you
I
don't,
think,
so that so you're really learning about self-care as far as the nutrition too. Like
right.
you're giving yourself the best nutrition you can because your family's got some issues going on. Did you
You
do
know,
anything else besides that? Besides the food part, did you do more meditating or anything like that?
so in my daily habit stack, um, I write down what I'm going to eat in my food journal. And then I write out a commitment to God because I really feel like, He's my one and only authority figure, although I do give my sponsor some authority. And then I write down gratitudes. I think and just learning to have an attitude of gratitude is so important. It's something that I want to show to my kids. Oh my gosh, I tell you, one day, so my kids know that I write my gratitudes in my book, right? And then I was having a bad day one day, and my 17-year-old comes up to me and she hands me a piece of paper. And she basically was lifting up my day. And she's like, Mom, every day you write down gratitudes. And she goes, it's my turn today to write down a gratitude for you.
Oh,
And she was just filling my heart with her love and saying, I'm so grateful for you for being my mom. And she's like, because of you, I might want to have kids someday. And I
wow.
saved that and put it in my safe. But I think, when we take care of ourselves and we give ourselves self-care, and some people might think putting ourselves first might be selfish, but you know what? In the airplane, they always say put your oxygen mask on first so you can help someone else.
Right.
And so my family is going to be the first one to see all of the victories that I'm having. And they're not always scale victories, they're non scale victories. They're going to see the fact that mom used to take 1 and 2 hour naps daily.
Wow.
They would come into my room and they'd be like, Mom, can I have a popsicle? And I'm like, yeah, go do it. I just wanted them out so I could sleep. I couldn't wake up. And now they're seeing, hey, mom's up during the afternoon. She's, cleaning the house. It's cleaner. She's taking us to the swimming pool in the afternoon because she has energy and she's awake. For 15 years, I was doing that, taking 1 and 2 hour naps. One time, a psychiatrist gave me narcolepsy medicine, which didn't work.
Wow.
And I don't think it was just getting the flour and sugar out. I think that's so important. You get this peace in your brain. Remember how some people, if you know the Bible, it says the peace that surpasses all understanding. Well, that's what I feel like when I got the flour and the sugar out. Oh my goodness, there's peace. So many people in BLE will talk about the peace. Um, I lost my train of thought, but
Well, I think this is so beautiful. You said something just a second ago that hit me between the eyes, besides the beautiful note from your daughter.
mhm,
That's a framer and putting it in the safe. Amazing.
mhm,
Laminate. But
yeah,
anyway, the whole thing about self-care, it brings up something from yesterday that somebody posted. I think actually Treva posted it, and Treva's here.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't write it, but there was an article about a woman who talked about a mom who was kind of grumpy and, just went through life kind of on edge with anxiety. And then all of a sudden, mom changed one day. And it was like her husband who says, I haven't found a job yet, but I'm going to go to the bar. And, the daughter who was, I smashed the car. And the son who's like, I'm getting bad grades. And so all of this, she basically said, okay, but, if you fail your class, then, you can take it over. You just have to pay for it. And to the daughter, you'll have to just, figure out a way to pay for it. And I thought, wow, it was speaking to me in that, well, for one, my mom did not do that. She actually let me have my own troubles and she let me figure them out.
Wow.
I don't mean
Great
that
mom.
she was dismissive. She just, and it might have been because I was number 11 out of 12, but truly, she didn't get in the middle of my problems. And for that reason, I was able to figure things out. I kept striving as you did with diet after diet. I just hadn't found like the code, as Barb says, if she's here. But, the thing is that you persevere and you find a way out. But if somebody's always fixing your problems, you're really not giving them an opportunity to grow. So I think that ties in with your self-care, what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely. Because, and it's funny that Triva had posted that this week, and I read it because I'm reading a book on boundaries.
Okay.
And I committed to myself, I'm reading a little bit every day. And when I got right and I got that peace in my brain, I realized that while my kids were growing up, I was the type of mom that would take on all of their emotional stress. I would try to fix everything. I would rescue them, I don't know if any of the moms out there can relate to that. And just recently, I felt like I'm being called to learn a lesson there. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't need to take on their issues. It's their own journey. They're going to have to learn, on their own, kind of. And so then I've been asking myself lately a few questions. I'll say, all right, what is their part? What is God's part? And what's my part? And usually my part when it comes to my kids is actually smaller than I used to take on. I'm still there to support. I'm still there to get them, maybe if they need a counselor, to do that, but I'm not there to solve all their problems. And it's because I have that peace in my brain now. It gave me the space I needed to realize that. So taking care of myself first is one way I can show them that I love them. And to add one more thing, in my food journal, we were talking about what I do. I also write a Bible verse every day because that's important to me. Yeah,
that's really fantastic. Besides all of this stuff that's going on in your brain, in the the mindfulness, the prayer, and the commitment to God, and committing to your sponsor, and really having integrity. You were talking about a logistical plan that you had done in your kitchen, I believe, after you had gone through the gaining of the weight, right? Yes. You had something put in your house,
yeah,
right?
I did. Oh my goodness. I never thought I would get to this point, but I was so far in the hole that I was like, I got to do something. I just can't trust myself around the not my food, the flour and sugar products in my house, because none of my family has bought into bright line eating, even though they see all the non-scale victories. Doesn't matter to me because I'm still planting seeds, okay? And so one day I said, okay, David, will you go to Home Depot, get another pantry, one of those big cupboards, put it there, put all the flour and sugar products in there, and put a padlock with a pin on it. And the only one that did not have that pin was me. And after about 6 weeks, this happened right around, I started May 8th of 2020 of Bright Lines. Yeah, after about 6 weeks or so, I was able to take that padlock off, and I've been around NMF. And I was in church this weekend, and my 9-year-old, he looked up at me and he goes, "Mommy, have you eaten any flour and sugar this year?" And I said, "I haven't had flour and sugar since May 8th, 2020. He says, "Good." Because when I was into the flour and sugar, he would say to me, "Mommy, when are you going to get back to Bright Line eating?" And it
Really?
just, yeah. And he was 8 then.
Wow.
Yeah. And he sees the change in me, in the physical stature too. He can put his arms around me
Right.
further.
But I
So
mean,
look at the little minds that I'm showing, how to take care of myself, and then trying to encourage them. It's important for them to take care of themselves as well.
well, he's seeing a happier mom, as you
Mhm.
said. And, all the
Yeah.
other things. I learned this years ago from, he was a physicist and he turned into a senator or congressman. And he came to visit one of the kids' schools. And he says, remember this, you can never do just one thing. And he was talking to the students about, like, if you go off to this path, that's going to trickle to that, to that, to that. Even if you take medicine, it doesn't do just one thing. That's why so many times when you take one type of medicine, you have to take another medicine to counteract, So,
Yeah.
so that is the thing, that what we're doing in our lives, we're not doing just one thing. We're actually we're creating this effect that's just going to be spreading out. And I've said this a number of times, that I truly believe, and as a Christian too, I truly believe that we can call it saboteur, some call the devil, whatever, that's all intended to me to think about me, my food. Why? Because then I don't serve, because I'm thinking about me. Or sometimes the health wise, it's really taking me down where I can't do anything else. I can only just get by. And once you lift that, and you are lifting off really this, you're infirmed with it. It's holding you back from doing what your purpose is in life. Your purpose is not to take 2-hour naps, but it might have been part of the process of learning.
Right.
That you don't want to have to go back there again. I think it's really interesting how you call all of these lessons, Jennie.
Mhm.
Is there one in particular that you're so glad you learned?
Oh gosh. Um, for me, it's that I can't do this on my own.
Right.
That my higher power, Jesus, God, he has the strength when I'm weak. And then he gives me others who understand me and get me to help me through. And a lot of the wisdom that you might hear from what I'm saying today is because I have checked in with my Marco Polo group daily, and everybody is sharing their story, their journey, what they've learned, their ups and downs. And I learned from them and they learned from me. And, that's why I'm here. One of the songs you played at the beginning of this was awesome. It's called Overcomer by Mandisa. And it says, looking for those who are looking for a ray of hope. And I think that's what we're doing here today. And I know that's what you're doing. You're offering a ray of hope by all of the people that you've done Zooms with so far. And I know that I'm just so grateful for you, and so are everybody here.
Well, I'm totally humbled by this little job that I've had put on my heart, but I'm especially humbled by those who have been taking part in it. Because it just shows your grace in being able to share your story. Some just want to keep it to themselves, especially if they don't perceive in their mind that they've had a perfect journey. And you're highlighting it, like, look at these lessons I've learned. And you've learned
Yeah.
them. I mean, we're saying 4 years, but you've learned them early on, relatively speaking, because you have a lifetime ahead and you're already thinking, look at the people I affect right now in my home, my family, right here.
Mm-hmm.
I had an interesting thing happen last weekend before the 4th of July, and I shared that with you on Friday. My husband and I went to the beach, and we're walking on the beach, just the two of us. And I had this moment. I was looking around at all the people, and I said to Tom, you know what? I just realized something. I have not compared myself to anybody for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like before, it would be very common to go into a room and scope out people in my mind, I didn't think in a mean way or anything. Was more like to myself, like, am I the biggest person in the room? Sometimes I'd say that to Tom. Am I the biggest person here? And how is he going to win that conversation? There's no way.
No way.
No, there's no good answer. Because, if you're having a conversation, the answer is, yeah, you're the biggest. But the thing was, it was this body dysmorphia going on, that I still deal with it, but I just couldn't wrap my brain around where I was in my journey as far as weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I got on that, but it's just like there's just so much more than just about the food in this program. It's about what you're doing, Jennie. Like you're taking this step by step, like you realize it's 2 steps into the ditch. 2
Yeah.
steps back on, though.
Right. And I could never say, I've got it. You know what I mean? No going back. I've made it. I've arrived. I can't say that because I know that I have to keep plugging in to the power of God. I have to keep plugging into my support community. I have to keep committing every single day. I have to prep my food ahead, and I have to make sure that I have my food. And if I don't have a bunch of veggies prepared ahead of time, I have some Amy's canned soup with some canned beans and canned green beans. I have Tasty Bites prepackaged meals, and I know how much I can have of those, so that I have an emergency meal in case I just don't have the time, or maybe I happen to be sick and, my husband's busy, can't make me food. So I want to have those emergency meals.
Well, you even had a picture of at the Grand Canyon that you had a totally compliant meal right there. What a view.
Oh, I packed my food for the Grand Canyon, had it in, I packed out, 10 ounces of raw veggies. I had 4 ounces of hummus. I had maybe 2-ounce guacamole packets. I had 6-ounce baggies of grapes. I had my food for my lunches. And then I sat down in front of the Grand Canyon and I was like, I am going to enjoy the view. And I just kept saying, thank you for my bright light and food. Thank you for this view. And I was totally satisfied. I did have a little slip on quantities. That was the only time. It was during that vacation. And because I did not have cell service very much, it was hard to say to my sponsor, hey, I really need extra food, but I think I had like 17 steps one day. And so I learned another lesson, and that is when I go on vacation, it's okay to add food to my program, telling my sponsor or my accountability partner, and then sticking to that added food.
Like say, I'm going on maintenance for a week.
Yeah. And especially when I added all that exercise, and so I did go over quantities and, just things weren't quite, perfect. Oh, and I wanted to tell you something else I've decided to do for myself, because I think it's important to celebrate, all of the success. And so starting with May 8th, so it was like 1 year that I kept Bright Lines, I said, I want to get flowers every 8th of the month if I've been bright the month before. So today is the 8th of July, and I got some flowers from Trader Joe's, and I potted them in the plant in a pot in my room. So I have that, and then I take a picture of my flowers. If they're the type that are cut and they'll die, then I have that picture and I put it as my screensaver for a whole month. And that can also be a reminder to me, stay bright. You get flowers next month. So that's one way I
It's so
celebrate.
funny. I was just thinking of getting myself some flowers this morning, like
There
for
you go.
myself. It must have been like a
Yeah.
brainwave. But why the 8th? Is that the day that you began?
That's the day when I call it my new recovery, where I've
Oh, May 8th. Got
kept
it.
my bright lines. And yes,
Well, that's a
so
wonderful
2020. Yeah.
way to
And
remember.
that way, if, I did have a wobble, I don't have to be perfect. Goodness knows I haven't been perfect. I have a feeling I'm not going to be perfect in BLE the rest of my life. You know what? I've been in this for 4 years. I've gotten to know a lot of people in BLE. Like you said, there's so many groups out there. I'm in Phoenix Brightest, Tucson's Brightest here locally, meeting with them usually twice a month. I'm in a Marco Polo group. I have a friend from New Zealand. I was in a Gideon Games, person from England. So, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry, Noreen.
Well, that just
But
tells me like we need to get together, like physically, all of us at some point. And I'm going to
yeah,
map out where everybody is so I can come and see everybody. Wouldn't that be great?
right.
I mean, we
Yes.
really could do that.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful kindred spirits about it. Like we can get together and we can know. Right? When you had that potluck food that you
Yes.
had a picture of that, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, here, you know what everybody can have. I mean, you can be
Right.
plant-based or, have meat, but, you can have a pretty good idea of what to serve. And I think that is awesome. This
And
time, yeah, go ahead.
we get each other. When you meet people that do bright line eating, we get our broken brains, for lack of a better term.
Yes,
And you were also talking about the susceptibility scale.
right.
Um, right. And Susan Pierce Thompson came up with this. It's like 5-question quiz that's on brightlineeating.com. I'm sure you can find it. And it asks you questions about your past eating habits. And then it gives you a score between 1 and 10. How susceptible are you to having a mind that is addicted to flour and sugar? And I'm a 10. I'm highly susceptible. My husband is a 1. And so that means he can go and he can, I saw him with NMF, on his plate for breakfast. And he left a piece about this big. He's like, I'm full. He just pushes his plate away. I thought, I could never leave that there. Whether I was full or not, I would be eating that. And then I'd probably be looking around at my kids' plates to see what do they have left on their plates. Can I eat that? So that's the difference between my husband and me.
We are in
So
the same boat. My husband's also a 1. He took the quiz 1 year into my journey as a favor to me, and he would have scored 0 if there would have been that. It was
yeah,
really quite remarkable, but like with the lessons you've learned and like learning that there's a reason why your husband can leave that piece.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
also helpful to
Mhm.
understand and to have compassion. And
And he tries to be as supportive as he can. He's so proud of me, but he doesn't get it the way my bright line eating friends do. And so, and I also want to talk about grief. Um, the fact that we don't eat flour and sugar. There's a lot of foods out there, especially culturally. I live in Arizona, so the Mexican culture is pretty prominent here, and tortillas are a thing.
right,
I have friends that are from the Mexican heritage, and it's very important to them. How hard and what kind of grief they must have to go through to let those things go. But for me, I went to the funeral. Well, after the funeral of my father-in-law, I came back to my mother-in-law's house, and there was a dessert buffet.
mm,
And God bless my family. They celebrated his life by saying these were some of his favorite desserts.
Mm.
And, you know, normally now I'm okay seeing NMF around me. I'm okay with even making some breakfast NMF for my kids. But there are times when the grief comes up. I wanted to partake, but I knew that I wasn't going to, that was a part of me that wanted to partake. But my highest self, the part of me that's like, my best self was like, no, it's not good for you. So I went over to my husband. He actually was eating NMF at the time, and I told him, and he's trying to, try to support me. And then I texted my sponsor right away. Do you notice I wasn't isolating? So important. I'm reaching out right in the moment. And then I went up to my sister-in-law who eats healthy. And I said, can I talk to you for a minute? And I just bawled and I cried. And I was like, and she said, you know what? Your father-in-law would not want you to be partaking. He would not want you to go back down that road because he would know where it leads to. And she's like, you have so much freedom now. And she was so right. And now it's been, 2 or 3 months since that day. And I look back on it and I think, would my enjoyment of that day and my closeness with my family have been any better if I had gone down that road and eaten the dessert? No.
No,
No.
and that's the thing. We
Yeah.
put the food at such a level. It's almost like personified, like just
Yeah.
it's like so much a part of our life, this
Yeah.
food. I mean, and it is grief.
It is
To
grief.
acknowledge it, to acknowledge like I'm sad that I don't have that in my life.
And I'm sorry for those of you that I don't want to trigger anybody by saying the names of NMF, but in this context, I think it's important for some people to hear that, these are, things that I had to grieve. And I had to say, that was my former life. It might have served me then, but it doesn't serve me now, and it's not going to serve me in the future. One Thanksgiving when I realized I wasn't going to have pumpkin pie.
Right.
I grieved. I think I cried for like a week because pie was a big thing in my family growing up and in my husband's family. So I'll try not to say any more NMF names, but it's okay to grieve.
Even Susan does. I mean, she
Yeah.
doesn't really say NMF, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't feel badly about that. I think that you bring up a big part though about the triggering piece, because there are things I've been triggered about at home. Just even like ice cubes, if I know that people are getting together and having an NMD, not my drink, and I'm not going to partake, and even the sound of the ice cubes can trigger that. And I had to really go through it. And here's the thing that I'm going to say something that might not be popular to hear. We have to go through it. If we can't do it in our homes, if we can't do it in a Facebook group to be able to see something, how are we going to have this work long term? I'm just speaking from my heart here and with no malice to anyone. Sometimes we have to scroll on by. Sometimes we just have to pause, maybe go in our room and cry, whatever it takes. But we have to be able to face this, because if we don't, it's going to catch up with us at some point. That's just my feeling. And like I said, that may not be the popular feeling, but I truly believe that we have to, at some point, take the padlock off.
And be able to be out in public and be okay with the fact that there's a dessert bar right there.
Right, because the real world doesn't say, okay, we've got that all locked up now for you.
Right.
And then you're really going to explode and really have to. I don't mean to put yourself in like harm's way like every single day. No, I really mean scroll on by, like know that it's there, and you know that it's there, and maybe each time you pause and say, yes, that's not my food. And so that neural pathway is going on,
Right.
I mean, that's my opinion, but
right. No, I agree, because And I think this is why support comes in with this idea, because in our culture, there is a McDonald's on every corner. You know, just the sign can trigger those neural pathways to want to make us go in there and get it.
Absolutely, it can.
Yeah.
The
And so,
workroom. I mean, just
yeah,
the workroom. Like, I
right,
wonder what's in there today, or the
right. And
teacher's
that's,
lounge, or whatever, you know?
I'm a substitute teacher. I
Yeah.
get it. And for me, a couple things. I let everybody I know, everybody in my Facebook knows that I do not eat flour and sugar. And I think one of the reasons why I do that is that if I am in a situation where I'm around, it helps my integrity,
Yeah.
because they know they're going to be looking at me like, she's eating flour and sugar. What? She said she's not, And
Right.
so it does help my integrity. We also need to give ourselves love and compassion.
Mhm.
If we do go 2 steps off the path and we're down the ditch, because the world is against us with, all of the ads on TV, the mouth-watering burgers and
Yeah.
things like that, and that's why we have support daily.
Right.
And yeah, so
All of that.
support.
And Jenny, I can't believe how fast the time has gone, but
Yeah.
I like to stay on time, and I want to give you this chance right now. You have had an incredible journey, and I love that you are, you're speaking to it in that you are pulling these lessons from each part of your journey. But there's someone today who is listening, and they may not be back on the path, or they might not have even started yet. What would
Yeah.
you say to them about bright line eating?
Well, I would say these are the tools, and if you follow the plan, you will experience freedom. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe you will even get a taste of freedom, and then you'll fall off, and that's okay. Keep showing up, keep persevering, keep from isolating. Don't isolate, and get support. There's so many people that want to support you in your journey. You can do this. You're an overcomer.
Oh, I love that. Yes, all the way around. And boy, Jenny, you surely are. I just thank you so much for being here and sharing your journey and all the lessons that you've learned. It really is amazing to hear it all. And you speak with conviction, commitment, and really joy for the journey.
Yes,
And I just love it.
absolutely.
So
Thank you
I
for
just
having
thank
me.
you again. You're welcome. And I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. And thanks little Poochie who's barking before we go. A lot of people saying thank
She
you
did a
for
pretty
being
good
here.
job.
Yes, she did. So I'm going to close as I do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
So, Jenny, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
All right, sure.
All
What do you got
right.
for me?
Okay, well, I want to talk about food. That's the question on my mind. You showed me a picture of salad in a jar. How do you go about doing that? And like, how well will they stay fresh?
You
Salad
know
in.
what? I put the chunkier vegetables down at the bottom, and then I stuff the lettuce on top, or the spinach, whatever I'm having. 10 ounces in a big white mouth mason jar, and they stay good. I usually make 5 and eat one every day, so I have one for 5 days, and then I always make my plate with my 6th one and have that, for my lunch. I don't usually put the dressing with it, although I think some people do. They
Oh,
put it at the bottom, and then they'll shake it up. But I never did, because I just wasn't sure how it would work. I don't think it would get as soggy because the lettuce is at the top. And then I usually add my protein. One thing I also like about salads is with bright line eating, salsa is 2 ounces. It's free. It's a condiment, right? And so instead of just a half an ounce, I think, of oil, and then you can add however much vinegar you have, I would rather have 2 ounces of salsa and 2 ounces of avocado, get the quantities in there, right? And then that's my fat and my salad dressing. So I do that often for my salads.
So you have salsa for your dressing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yummy.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay.
I grew up in Arizona. Salsa's a thing.
Yes.
And Catherine Marine makes an excellent one by the chance. And you interviewed Catherine Marine. She brought her salsa to my potluck, and it's awesome.
Okay. Note to self right there. Something's going to happen with that. Okay. Here's a question for you, because I know that it hasn't been a straight shot down. It kind of went down, went back up. But
not just kind of.
Yeah. So if somebody was starting today, what is the one piece of advice that you would give them? A practical piece of advice, knowing all you know now, because you have a lot of lessons learned, and you would probably enter it with a different kind of attitude than you did back then. What would that be, that advice?
Seek the lesson. Because we're all on a journey. We are where we are, and it's okay. There's no reason you have to beat yourself up if you're in the ditch. There is freedom. Just keep showing up and seek the lesson. And then you'll learn that lesson. You'll become wiser, and then you'll move on, and you'll find the lesson. You're never going to stop learning lessons, but you'll be wiser. You got this.
And this is the third question. This is for all the cash prizes.
Oh, boy.
Zip. What? You learned a lot of lessons, but through all of this, what is one thing that you can say, you know what, Jennie, you did that right? What is one thing that you did right through it all?
Not isolating, showing up every day and persevering. Absolutely. Don't
isolate. Get in the groups, do all those things, and you don't have to do this alone. You don't even.
I was never able to do it alone before. Why would I think I could do it now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jennie, thank you so much for being on Starting Out Bright, and thank you for playing 3-Question Thursday.
Yay! Did I win? Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. What do we have for Johnny?
Oh.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Stay bright.
Good night.